Three homages. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami.
Good morning and welcome to you all. Thank you for coming in today to hear the Dharma and to be with everyone in Sangha. It's very important to just be together in this peace and calm. We will begin with our Shoshinge chant, and our Shoshinge was written over 800 years ago by our lineage founder, Shinran Shonin, in 13th century Japan. So it's a very ancient chant, and your book opens in the opposite direction as you might be used to, and and then you chant it in vertical columns from right to left. So if you try to read it like we read English, you're going to get instantly lost. So vertical columns going down, right to left. It's most important to just, if it flummoxes you, to let go of that flummoxing energy and just sit and breathe and listen and soak it in. That's the most important thing. The Shoshinge takes a little practice, so it's okay. So Shinran Shonin compresses his experiences and insights of practicing Pure Land Buddhism into this Shoshinge pleasantly long poem. And we realize that those are the principles that guide our lives. Shinran wanted us to know that life is more than a simple journey from cradle to grave. We are part of that long, unbroken thread of life that extends deep into the past, and we are responsible to extend that thread into the future. During our chanting, we also offer incense right here, as the priest did, and everyone is encouraged to offer incense. And if you're at your home altar, please offer incense or food or water or flowers or whatever it is that you'd like to offer in gratitude. Gratitude to the infinite wisdom and compassion that surrounds us all the time. We want to encourage you to do this because it's just a letting go of your small self and realizing that you're part of everything. So it's important. Burning incense symbolizes transcending selfishness into becoming one with all. We have 2 other altars in our hondo. On that side of the hondo, we have our kanon, or Avalokiteshvara compassion altar. So if you want to send out more compassion, or you have a dear one who has transitioned, or anything like that, you can light a candle at that altar. And on this side of the hondo is our medicine Buddha altar, where you need a little more healing energy, healing from upside down views or physical, emotional, mental ailments for yourself or others. You can offer incense at that altar right there. And then on this altar is Amida Buddha, the Buddha of infinite wisdom and compassion, offering boundless wisdom and compassion. And we offer wisdom to Amida Buddha or to a dear teacher with an open heart. Thank you very much. Namon Lops, Namon Lops.
나무 부카시고 오조보사이니지 자이세지자오부쇼 토켄쇼부조도인 거꾸로닌된 시즌마크 건류무조슈쇼간 조호케우다이그제 고코시의시쇼주 주세묘쇼몬지포 후호무료무행코 무게무타이코엔노 쇼조간기치에코 푸다난시무쇼코 초니칭아코 쇼진세 이살군조무코쇼 홍간묘고 쇼조고 시신신교간니인 조토가쿠쇼다이네한 이시메노간조주 뇨라이쇼이코슈세 유이세미다 온강카이 오적규아쿠지군조카이 오신요라이뇨진곤 노이치넨 기아이신 푸란본노 토쿠네한 본쇼가쿠호사이누 뇨슈시누 카이치미 세슈신고조쇼고 이노스이하 무묘한 토나이신노시운무 조푸신진신진텐 인연이 거푼무 은무시계묘무한 갸쿠신갱교다이교기 소고 조제고 와쿠슈 이사이젠마쿠본분인 몬신요라이 구제간 분강고다쇼게샤 세니묘 푼다리케 미라부홍간nem부 자켄교마나쿠슈조 信行十字人に難中止難昔インド祭天使論下中華自地域史こそ現代諸公聖書意妙如来本税大き釈迦如来両合戦一種五妙難天竺流樹大自主統制出の財産無権先世大乗無常法召喚議事小安楽賢治南行六六信行異行指導楽億年未来部本願次年即時入上唯の上昇如来語大偶然音天神菩薩増論性奇妙無下公如来永寿たら謙信寺後世の超大聖願こういう本願力以移動群上小維新気抜く六大崩壊越略入大収集特殊蓮華造世界即昇進用昇進有本の人間順図入所自由自由下本自動乱両天使上皇乱小菩薩来三蔵ルシ十上教本書宣教気楽を天神菩薩論中下報道因果現世願大元栄光有他力少女死因唯信心惑前本部信心法承知承知即年半非死無量光明道小宇宙上開復系同社継承道南小唯名浄土かつぬ万全自力変言宗円満特語感染症三風三神慶音言増魔法明道非因異生造悪地有税思案妖怪称名化
全道独名無償意
公愛上三有逆悪法名名語計二年開入本願大智慧行者小樹今後心表記一年総合用意大と逆三人即小法小子上楽見信公開一大教変気安女加二歳先祖出身反戦人法系二度小弁理由国中悪人有勝負が薬剤非正集中煩悩証言水通見大無権上昇が本自元空妙部教霊民全幕本部人新宗教書後編集戦略本願具悪性現来生じ連伝芸慶地義上位少子即ぬ弱上無意楽一信心二のぬ苦境大自主死と調裁無変極辱悪同族自主愚道心唯過信し放送せ
南無阿弥陀
むあみだあぶなむあみだあぶなむあみだぶなむあみだあぶなむけだのこの方は今に自己をたまえりほしのこうりえんきわもなくせのもみょうを照らすなり。平うどせいさいどぼだいしんおじょんらほなまんだぶなまんだぶなまんだぶなまんだぶなまんだぶなまんだぶなまんだぶなまんだぶなまんだぶNow we'd like to invite the children to Dharma School downstairs in Roma Hall with Reverend Shelley and Aaron. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you.
morning. Poems of Asahara Saichi. Saichi feels an endless flow of folly inside himself, an endless flow of greed. There is a constant fire burning. No wonder this burning. Saichi is an evil spirit. Though burdened by guilt, my guilt's tears of sorrow in the 6 letters, Namu Amida Bu. Burdened by karma, my guilt's tears of joy in the 6 letters. Namu is the misery, Amida is the joy. It's all Namu Amida Butsu. Tears of sorrow, tears of joy. This old self of mine, a pile of delusions. Now I hand them over. Now I will hand them over. Now I hand them over to you. Ah, what a great feeling. Namu Amida Butsu. How miserable. Saichi's heart, how miserable. A thicket of delusions arise all at once, all kinds. Hateful fire mixed with evil burnings. Waves mixed with evil are rising. How miserable. Fire mixed with folly burning. When the bamboo is not understood, it is wickedness. When understood, it is humility. Namu Amida Butsu. Oh, Saichi, what to do when you can't be happy? Well, shut the gate. Rest the mind. Fall soundly asleep. My becoming Buddha comes from Oisan's heart, the heart born from Oisan's heart. Hoya is experienced in these things. Somehow it works. Oh, how fine. A whole world and vastness of space is Buddha. I am in it. Namu Amida Bu. Namu-san and Amida-san are both Amida. Namu Amida Butsu. This is happiness, my happiness. The most wonderful thing is that Buddha's invisible heart of compassion is visible while I'm right here. That's the Pure Land. Millions of worlds away is visible while I'm right here. Namu Amida Butsu. Oh, you, all my friends, looking at your hearts filled with troubles. Don't doubt Amida's compassion when it seems impossible. This is the greatest mistake you make. Utter wretchedness we guilty beings experience surely turns into priceless treasure. This you will realize when karma ripens. Namu Amida Butsu really works. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Namu Amida Bu. Namu Amida Bu. Namu Amida Bu comes to Saichi's rescue. Saichi rescues Namu Amida Bu. That's really amazing, don't you think? We will now have a few minutes of meditation accompanied by music.
It's important to take great care when sitting on top of a table on a little tiny stool. I just don't want to go over backwards, so. It's important to take great care throughout life, but there are certain circumstances where extra care is necessary. It is great to see everyone this morning, and welcome to anyone I didn't get to see personally come through the door. I'm always coming and going through that time. Reverend Shelley also has a fantastic memory for names. I have a memory for faces, which is not very useful in greeting people because you go, hi, you, whoever you are, I remember you. That doesn't work as well. Reverend Shelley remembers everyone, so I rely upon her for many things. So, it's a happy time to gather together and share the Dharma. It's been a difficult week after another difficult week, and tragedy is so hard to process. Sometimes gathering together is the best thing. It's important. These tragedies shake our sense of safety and our expectations of life being just in some way. But humans are very dangerous animals. They're probably the most dangerous animals on this planet. So that's not new. It's not a surprise, but we need to be aware of that and care for each other in a special way because of that. Yeah. The Buddha's message of peace and compassion is a soothing place to take refuge when the horror is just too much to bear. That's what we do in the face of tragedy. Take refuge in what is larger than our little self. That's a good first thing to do. Yeah. Take refuge in the love and kindness that surrounds us. Even so. You could hear that in Saiichi's poems. And I will talk more about that. As a matter of fact, that's probably all I'm going to talk about from here on out. Saiichi the Clogmaker. I thought that I would bring a Geta clog with me, but Will is displaying one there. It's a wooden shoe, useful in Japan in the old days because the streets were very muddy, so you could kind of rise above it on those wooden shoes. Saiichi is said to be a myokonin. What is a myokonin? You probably are asking yourself. Myokonin literally means a wondrous, excellent person. We use it to describe very special people. Not so much like saints or magical people as true exemplars of who we can be if we drop our mask of pretense and self-importance. Records of myokonin from Japan abound. There are many stories going far back into almost to Shinran's time. But there are also stories of myokonin in Peru. And there's one Peruvian person here, so I'm just trying to mentally connect with her. And even Hawaii, there are myokonin in Hawaii, who were Japanese folks, Shinshu people who were there working in coffee plantations, actually. It's where there's a whole book of the myokonin poems in Hawaii. I tried to get it for this Dharma talk, but it's it's out of print and hard to find. And so maybe I need to go to Hawaii and get a copy of that, don't you think? I have 100 people vouching for me. These special people live lives of total dedication to Amida Buddha, who they call the Oya-sama. You might have heard that in the poem that Holly was reading, Oya-sama. The dear parent is a decent translation of what Oya-sama means. Their actions and sayings reveal deep faith and the truest humanity. They often have very little education, but a vibrantly deep understanding of other power and the other power teachings of our Shin tradition. Here is one of Saiichi's poems. In other power, there is no self-power, no other power. All is other power. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Other power contrasts with self-power, and it's the real path to all spiritual growth. The Myokonin see that naturally, easily, without thinking about it too much. So they're really wonderful gifts to all of us. They're not simply devout practitioners of the Nembutsu. They just don't chant the Nembutsu all the time. That wouldn't really be the thing. Having realized the reality of other power and experience oneness with Amida Buddha, they express Amida's ever-embracing compassion through their life, the way they live their life. They're deeply aware of their absolute powerlessness. You might have heard that in some of Saiichi's poems. He sounds a little bit like a wreck. All of us are a little bit of a wreck sometimes, right? So Saiichi has the courage to be honest about that, and that's sweet. They're aware of their powerlessness, and they are ever grateful to the wise and compassionate qualities of the universe around them. The wise and compassionate qualities of being itself, almost. Not so much a specific being or character or anthropomorphic, image thing. Not like that. It's more of a sense of a distributed compassion, distributed wisdom, imbued in everything that they feel. Their daily life is full of spontaneous expressions of joy and selfless love. The word Myokonin comes from Zendo's commentary on the Meditation Sutra. It is mentioned in the Shoshinge. I can't remember the page number, but it's a Zendo Dokimyo Bushoyi in somewhere around there. And in it, his commentary, he praises the followers of the Nembutsu like Fundarike, which is they're like white lotus blossoms, which is amazing. Zendo calls them by 5 important names. I just have allergies and I have to take peppermint like every 5 seconds to make it stop. It suppresses the cough. Okay, Zendo calls them 5 things. Konin, which is excellent person. Jojonin, which means a superior person. Myokonin, which is a wonderful person. Keunin, which is a rare person. Saishonin, a most excellent person. But somehow, over the years, Zendo was like 1,000 years ago or something like that. So over the years, Myokonin was the one of those beautiful descriptions that stuck, and we use it even today. For people of true and abiding faith, like Saiichi, the Clogmaker. In medieval Japan, biographies of the Myokonin became popular reading material. They would be printed in woodblock prints and circulated among Shin folks. Over the years, some Shin Buddhist scholars actually compiled all of those stories and biographies into the Myokonin Den, which is sort of a big compendium of stories about such people. And even famous Buddhist scholars like D.T. Suzuki were interested. He said this about the Myokonin: they are good-hearted, unworldly, pious, and spiritually naive. That is, they are not learned in the technical lore of religion and they are not at all argumentative about what they believe. They do not display their intellect or ideas. They just go on practicing, grounded in personal experience of Amida Buddha. When they express themselves at all, they are unaffected. Words come directly from their inmost heart and speak directly to their true faith. So, the simplicity and that naivete of these exemplary people meant that they never had positions of importance in the organization. That leadership wouldn't make sense for people who didn't aspire to being important. Was that an admission, a self-admission? I think it was admission of guilt there. I'm sitting on a fancy chair with a fancy robe. I just want to share the Dharma. I think that Dharma is wonderful, so I'm in this situation. They only rarely left records of their spiritual insights. So most of the things we know about them are just stories handed on. But Suzuki described them as representing one of the purest forms of Japanese spirituality, which is high praise from D.T. Suzuki. Usually, accounts were written in kind of a narrative form by priests who would tell their stories as part of a Dharma talk. And that makes it a little bit hard to feel close and in contact with their living personalities because it's a story about somebody who did something, and that doesn't really go as far. But Saichi's is very special because he lets us into his heart with these poems. Here's another one. The Oya-san, dear parent, and myself joined in spirit. Of course we're joined. Self and Dharma are one. I often hear about unity, but there is no unity as perfect as this. Nothing is as intimate as parent and child. Your spirit and my spirit are together as one. Namu Amidabu has become my soul. Parent's mind is child's mind. Between them, there is no holding back. Namu Amidabu is both parent offering a hug and child saying yes. In all the world, there is but one parent, one child. Joyful parent and child in Namu Amidabutsu. You can really feel Saichi's experience. Saichi feels Amida is his Oya-san. Oya-san means person of love and compassion. There's no word for Oya-san in English. Oya, it's like parent, but without gender or role. So Oya can mean either father or mother, or both of them, not separately. But mother and father as one. You see how we don't have that in English, but it's a wonderful feeling if you start to kind of conjure it in your mind. It's amazing energy. Motherly qualities, fatherly qualities united in Oya. Oya-san is a very important, very important word to Saichi. So endearing, and at the same time, filled with spiritual significance and energy, power. I probably should have explained who Saichi was a little bit more. So, Saichi, he's special because he left not only poems but also journals, and those chronicle his life and his experience. They record the spiritual insights of a very humble man deeply immersed in the Dharma. Saichi was a woodworker who lived in the village of Kobama in Iwami province. He apprenticed as a carpenter. He worked as a shipwright for a long time, until he was about 50, and then he changed careers to become a geta maker. I imagine shipwrights have to carry big, huge logs and beams around, whereas geta makers just have little pieces of wood to work on. So it kind of makes sense as a career change. He continued making clogs with chisels and planes and all the different tools of woodworking from when he was 50 to when he was 83, when he died. As Saichi sat making his geta, much like I'm sitting now, he would have sat on the floor of his workshop, these poems would come to him and he would write them down on scraps of wood, or when you use a plane, the wood curls up into that very almost paper-like, what's that curl of wood called? There's probably a special word for it. Anyway, those, he would flatten them out and write these poems on them through the day as he was working. They're really expressions of the inner spiritual life that happens for all of us all the time. But I can imagine him kind of in the flow of being, just creating Geta, working the wood, not really trying to write poems. That wasn't part of his perspective. His lack of schooling makes the poems all the more direct and alive. I think really amazing if someone didn't really go to school and they're writing poems like that. As these poems accumulated, Saiichi started to copy them into children's notebooks, and he wrote a lot of these poems. So he transcribed about 10,000 into the notebooks. He probably wrote about, that's average about 2 a day, but there could have been days where it really flowed and days where there weren't so many poems. D.T. Suzuki compiled and translated about 3,500 of them into his book, The Collected Poems of Miyokonin Asahara Saiichi. So it was one of the last works that D.T. Suzuki wrote. A Shin Buddhist scholar, Idatsu Teramoto, once met Saiichi, and he wrote this. This year is 1919. Saiichi is 70 years old. His prescribed occupation is Geta maker. You may think each morning he walks to a local temple, attends the morning service, and returns home to work. He doesn't. Actually, he secludes himself in a 6x6 workshop and untiringly applies himself to his work, making Geta. You may think he's the kind of person who works not out of duty or for money, but to repay the Buddha's kindness to him. He is not. He knows he can never repay that kindness. Rather, he has no choice but to work, filled with joy and happiness. Another poem that Saiichi wrote. Saiichi, his last moments over and done with. Funeral over and done with. Now lives with Namu Amidabu in this world, where Saiichi becomes Amida and Amida becomes Saiichi. This is an experience of the oneness of Ki-ho Itai. So his small self and the Dharma are one in the Buddha. And you can write about this. Scholars write about Ki-ho Itai and the theory of this and the theory of that. Saiichi's just feeling it. And he's working, and he stops, and he writes a poem. As he works in his shop, he feels no separation, no duality. This is not a death poem. It's a poem about the dissolution of I, me, and my, blending into the ocean of Dharma. Remember that Saiichi worked the wood with knives and chisels all day, 7 days a week, until he was 83. And here's another of his poems. The name of the Buddha, that was not supposed to be part of the poem. I will start again. The name of the Buddha cuts too well. Too sharp to be felt is the Buddha's name. Unable to find the border between Namu and Amidabutsu. This is the keen edge of the 6-syllable name. Self is also one with Dharma, through the kindness and true compassion of the Buddha. Saiichi subdued. For a woodworker, a keen edge is essential. Too sharp to be felt as it cuts, like a surgeon's scalpel. But this edge does not cut apart. Instead, it is the invisible boundary between self and other power. He sees the same world of non-duality, Ki-ho Itai. He returns to ordinary consciousness in the poem, and Namu means I take refuge. the small me, taking refuge, and Amida Butsu represents the wisdom and compassion of the universe. So Saichi sees how himself is before the infinity of the Dharma. By seeing our smallness, Saichi shows us a path of true faith, absolutely accepting of other power, the flow of true Dharma. As he went about his work of making Geta in this state of faith, Saichi lives ordinary life in non-duality, in Namu Amida Butsu. So this is the Clogmaker that I wanted to share with you today. He is one of many of these great exemplars that we remember dearly. They're just such sweet people. They're so unassuming. They show us how to live life with ups and downs in abiding faith, interconnected with Amida through Namu Amida Butsu. Joyful and grateful, really amazed at the compassion of the Oyasan that holds us never to be let go. Each one of us, you, are held never to be let go by Amida Buddha. He helps us see the wisdom and compassion of the universe, that they're here for us. We see how there is no separation, really, between these two. When we remember the Buddha, like Saichi did, the Buddha's compassion rises in us. Let's share the Buddha's wish, compassionate wish for all beings. Just repeat after me. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings receive boundless compassion. May peace and harmony fill their hearts. Namandaps, namandaps, namandaps. Thank you. At this point in our service, we usually stand and sing our Reno Buddhist Center theme song. It is on page 49 of the service book. Masako will play the piano. Very nice. Thank you. If you could just be seated. We have a few announcements. The bane of all Dharma talks. See, because the priest wants you to wander off thinking deeply about the Dharma talk, but instead we inject announcements into your head and you can't remember what the Dharma talk was about. But most important, there are tea and treats downstairs. So we should gather together and be in community and just share. whatever we might share. There is a newcomer circle downstairs. George Killeran will be sitting at that table. He has raised his hand, so find George, and you found the newcomers table. It's a good place to ask questions and interact. You're welcome. Everyone is welcomed at that, because each of us is a newcomer in our own way every day. Bunch of announcements on the order of service, which I will not read to you, but a great importance. On June 4th, Saturday, from 4 to 7 p.m., we are having our Moon Rabbit Cafe. It's going to be totally tasty tostadas. There will be 3 different kinds of tostadas. There will be chipotle chicken tostadas. There will be tilapia ceviche tostadas. And there will be jackfruit tostadas. So all kinds of folks will be welcome. But before we can have Moon Rabbit Cafe, we need to have volunteers staffing our little pop-up restaurant. So if you're interested, if you have skills with a knife, or if you just want to help out, that's fine. Please seek out Reverend Shelley and get your name on the list to help out. We're a little low on volunteers this time around, so that's okay. But please, if you can. Most of all, come to dinner. Bring friends and family to dinner on June 4th. Okay. Thank you all so much.